Hello, 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 hello. It is Worthy Women Wednesdays. My name is Rasheen Blanks, and I am going to be going live every Wednesday in the month of April because April is what? Financial Literacy Month. So I want to go live every Wednesday from 6 to 7. Yeah, I call it my power hour. We'll talk about investing. We'll talk about money. Today, I want to focus on really like the basics of investing and why it's important to invest, especially for women. A lot of times we think that we're not good investors or we won't do a good job investing. So it's time for us to change the narrative. So, why should women invest? My philosophy is this. Once you have, paid your debt, meaning your liabilities for that month, you've saved for your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is at a amount that you said, whether it's 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund that you want, or 12 months, whatever the amount of money is that you've set aside for your emergency fund. Once you reach that goal, listen, it's time to start investing. So why should we invest as women? This is why we should invest. 1, for every dollar that a man makes, a woman will make 70 cents. And a woman of color will actually make less than that, maybe 50 or 60 cents for every dollar a white man makes. So in my opinion, investing levels the playing field, right? When I invest, the market doesn't care if I'm black, if I'm white, if I'm a woman, if I'm a man, if I'm fat, if I'm skinny. It doesn't care. Like, it just cares if I'm right or if I'm wrong, right? And so far, I gotta let you ladies know I've been doing pretty good. Like, I looked at my accounts the other day, and I'm actually beating the market. I'm beating my robo advisors. I have a couple accounts that are robo advisors, and then I have an account that I select my own investments, and I'm actually up by 43%. And my 2 robo accounts are like in the 15% range. So I'm pretty good at it. I've been doing it for a while, so I'm glad to say that I am beating the robo advisors. But investing is a way for us to level the playing field. Investing allows us to make our money work harder for us, right? So if you think about it, we work hard for our money. Once you work hard for your money, now you want your money to work hard for you. You want your money to work harder for you. And investing is a way that we can do that. I also think that investing gives us a sense of power, right? When you pick out an investment or you are sending your money in, whether it's every time you get paid or whatever frequency you choose, as you start to see those returns, it's like, oh, okay, my money is growing. I'm seeing a return on my investment. I see my money going to work for me. And then when you see, if you are investing in, your investments are in dividend stocks or dividend ETFs or index funds, and you see the dividends come in, dividends are like a bonus of investing, right? So you may invest in a particular stock or ETF or index fund, and when that company makes profits, they'll give their shareholders a piece of those profits, and that's what dividends are. It's like, oh, like it's a bonus. So it's in addition to whatever returns you get on your investment. Some companies pay dividends annually. Some of them pay dividends on a quarterly basis. It just depends on when they decide to disperse those dividends to their shareholders. So that's another good thing about investing, right? Your money is making money. And another really great thing about investing is compounding, right? It's compound interest. Compound interest is known as one of the eighth wonder of the world, right? It's interest on top of interest on top of interest, and that's how you start to see your money really, really begin to grow and accumulate because of time and compound interest. Those two, they are really, really, really on your side. So the sooner you start investing, the better. I always say invest early, invest often, and it doesn't have to be a large amount. You can start investing with as little as $5. You don't need a lot of money to invest. And when you do invest, you don't have to buy a whole share of stock. You can buy what's known as fractional shares, right? Fractional investing. So if one share of stock costs $200 and you send $50 in, you've bought a quarter of a share of that stock. So, you don't need a lot of money. You just have to start. Start now, start early, start often, and invest whatever you can. You always want to make sure that you look for a long-term outlook, right? So you'll have your money set up with as far as a short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals, right? So your short-term goals, your money might be in a high-yield savings account. You don't really want to invest that because, say for instance, you want to buy a house. So that money, you want to keep it safe, but you still want to earn a good amount of interest on it. So you're going to put that money in a high-yield savings account. And then your midterm goals, right? You can invest it, but you might not be heavily invested in stocks, right? You might have that money, a lot of that money might be invested in bonds instead of stocks. But then your long-term goals, right? You'll probably have that money will be heavily invested in stocks because you have a longer time horizon before you need it, right? Which brings me to one of my points here. So when I first started investing, I was just randomly investing and not really, I didn't have a strategy to it. So then as I got more familiar with investing, I start to develop a strategy. And my strategy was this. I came up with these zones. So I'll have my future zone and then my current zone. And then within those zones, I have 3 different levels. So my future zone are all my retirement accounts, right? That's my future zone. That's like the future that I want, the future life I want for Rasheen. Like, what is Rasheen's future going to look like? So those are my retirement accounts. So those are my 401k, my IRAs that I have, and then that's zone 1, your 401k through my employer. And then zone 2 is my retirement account, my IRA, that is self-directed. It's not through my employer, but it's still in my future zone, because that your future zone is going to be your retirement zone. So then your current zone, which is level 3, is your brokerage account, right? It's my brokerage accounts. So that's money that I'm investing right now. That's money that I set aside for long-term goals, but also I have for short-term goals too, right? So I have money set aside. So say I wanted to go on a trip in a few years, like a dream trip, right? I'll have that money invested. And when it's time for me to go on my trip, I can take that money out, sell my shares of stock, and use that money to pay for my trip. Now, I wouldn't do that with any of my future zone accounts, right? Because that money is set aside for retirement. So you don't never want to touch that money. You just want to keep that money set aside for retirement, because that's your future zone, that's your future self, that's your current life, your future life, you know, how you want to live when you retire. And you have to really decide what you want that to be. So your current zone is going to contain all of your brokerage accounts. Those accounts are going to help you fund your current lifestyle, how you want to live now, right? How you want to invest now. So that's your current zone. So that's money, like I call it like money I have access to, money I can actually, you know, play with, right? Current zone, future zone, current zone. Future zone is our levels 1 and 2. That's going to be your 401ks, and level 2 is your IRAs, and then current zone is going to be level 3, and that's going to be your brokerage accounts. So that's a strategy that I developed for myself when it came to investing, because I just, at first, like I said, I was just investing and not really paying attention to what I was doing. I was just dumping money in, which is fine. But after a while, you do have to get strategic. So another way you can get strategic with investing is through dividend investing. So one strategy that I developed, well, I don't say that I developed, but, you know, I put into play, or I implemented for myself with investing. And this is for my current zone, like my current accounts, my brokerage accounts that money I play with now, is dividend investing. So depending on the company, right? Remember, I said companies will give you dividends as a bonus for holding shares of their stock. So the companies that I have, they pay dividends on a quarterly basis. So you can literally invest in like 3 or 4 different companies where they pay dividends on a quarterly basis, and you can receive dividends every single month because you're invested in 3 or 4 different companies that pay dividends quarterly, right? So say you're invested in JP Morgan, and they pay dividends January, April, and September. And then you're invested in Bank of America, and they pay dividends February, May, and August. And then say you're invested in Facebook, I don't think they pay dividends, but Facebook, it just came to my mind. So, and then they pay dividends every like March and June, and then September or something. So if I'm just trying to give you all like a picture of how you can literally invest in four different companies and get paid dividends every single month. So that's what I did. I'm invested in a few. One of my investments are I'm invested in a few companies, and I get dividends every month. Every month, dividends are coming in from one of those different companies that I'm invested in. So dividends, you get a dividend for every share of stock you own. So if you own 100 shares of stock that pays $1 dividend, you're going to get $100 from that company every quarter. So that's a nice amount of money every year. And then if you can, now you with your dividends, you can either have that money deposited into your bank account, or you can have that money reinvested back into the company to purchase more shares of stock, right? So you can have the money go to your account, or instead of having the money go to your account, your bank account, you can buy more shares of stock with those dividends. So the choice is yours. When you purchase that stock, you can have it set up where you can have the money go to your account, or you can just purchase more shares of stock. The more shares of stock you purchase, the more dividends you'll get when they release dividends, right? So that's another strategy for investing. So you have your current zone, your future zone, your current zone, and you have your 3 levels, and then you have your dividend strategy for investing. Now you also can invest in maybe make a decision if you want to invest for value or invest for growth, right? A lot of growth companies are a little smaller. Like a lot of tech companies are considered like growth companies because they're smaller. They're small to mid-sized companies, and they have room to grow. Whereas large cap companies, those are the companies that are really going to give you your dividends. You're not going to really get dividends from smaller companies because a lot of their profits that they have, they use those profits and reinvest back into their business to grow their business, right? So they might be a small to mid cap company, and they're trying to use their profits to get to a large cap company, right? To get to, build up more revenue and bring in more money and get more customers, right? So they're really trying to grow. Whereas large cap companies, which are also referred to as blue chip stocks, those are the companies that are going to provide your dividends for you. So if you think of large companies, like I said, JP Morgan or a Bank of America, you're going to get dividends from that company because they're well established, right? Any profits that they have, they're able to take those profits and share those profits with their shareholders. Whereas smaller companies they're really not in a position to do so, right? They're going to take their profits and reinvest back into their business to try to get the business to grow. So those are some of the differences with like smaller companies versus larger blue chip companies. Their focus is different. Larger companies, they're going to give you the dividends you want, usually their stock, right? The price of their stock is more stable, where you won't have a lot of fluctuation in the price of the actual stock. Whereas smaller companies, small to mid-sized companies, you might see a lot of volatility because it's a newer company, it's smaller. However, a lot of times you'll get a greater return from them because like their share price might start off at a few bucks a share, and they have room to really grow, for that company to grow. So it might, you might start investing in a company that when you first start investing with them, their share price was 20 bucks, right? And it's a smaller company, and they have room to grow. And now they've grown. Their profit is, their marketing and their revenues are coming in. They're starting to turn a profit. And now their share price might be up to 50 bucks, right? So that's a huge jump. Whereas blue chip companies that are a little larger, you won't have a lot of fluctuation in their share price or the cost of each share of stock, but you have more stability with them, right? So their share price might fluctuate a few dollars here and there, However, so you might not get a great gain from them, but you can get more stable investment, and you can also get dividends from them. Whereas smaller companies are a little more volatile, right? But you have a greater chance of getting a larger return from them because of that volatility. So if you think about it, it's like, you ever hear the term, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So that's what your smaller to mid-sized companies are going to give you, right? A larger return because you're taking more of a risk on that company due to the fact it's not as well established as, a large corporation like a Bank of America or JP Morgan, McDonald's. McDonald's has been around forever. So you buy McDonald's stock or Nike stock, those companies are huge, right? And they have stability. So those are more, no investment is absolutely stable, but they're less risky than, the smaller stocks or the smaller companies. So yeah, you really have to just make a decision on, what you want to invest in, how you want to invest, how long you want to invest, what you actually need the money for. And the only thing I can say is just start. Just start. Start to make your money work for you. Start to, after they show us how to make money, right? And they show us how to work to get money. But they don't show us how to make our money work for us. We learn how to work for our money, but we don't learn how to make our money work for us. And it's time for us to change the narrative. It's time for us to make our money work for us. It really is. School doesn't necessarily teach us basic finances. And, there's things that we've learned in school that I haven't had a use for it. I know what a parallelogram is. I've never had a use for a parallelogram. I've never said to myself, oh, that parallelogram really came in handy. But if someone would have taught us at, 10 or 11 years old how to invest, and about banking accounts and checking accounts, and how to, stocks versus bonds, that's what we need. Those are life skills. Knowing what a parallelogram is not a life skill. Maybe if I was going to be an architect, it would come in handy, but I have no use for it. To this day, I haven't had a use for it. However, what has been useful, right? Savings, checkings, credit, knowing how to invest, learning how to create generational wealth, right? The basics of home buying, the basics of learning how credit affects interest rates when you borrow money. Those are basic life skills that, are so important for us. So it's easy for us to kind of shy away from what's hard, but we have to learn to just do what's hard. We have to fight for ourselves. We have to make our money work harder for us than we do it. We have to. It's imperative. We have to when you're asleep, your money should be working for you. Those investments should be working hard for you. When I'm asleep, I want my money doing burpees. I want my money running 100 yard to 40. I want my money You know, listen, I want my money working hard for me when I'm asleep. And that's just what it is, right? And investing does that. Investing makes your money work harder for you. Investing levels the playing field. Investing gives you that edge and that power you need to take your money to the next level. Like, you'll never see someone that is successful in their own right or wealthy in their own right say they've gotten wealthy or gotten rich from saving their money. I've yet to see that. I've yet to see someone say, I became wealthy because I let my money sit in the bank. You will not find a person that says, I became wealthy because my money, I set my money in a bank. Banks make money off of us. They want us to take our money and put our money and leave it in the bank because they take our money and they invest with our money. There's no reason to have your money in a bank unless only for direct deposit, high yield savings account. That's going to be your emergency fund. Everything else should be invested. Everything else needs to be invested. Your money sitting in a bank is not going to give you a return on your investment that you need. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a few brokerage accounts. My robo accounts, both of them are at like a 15% return right now. And the accounts that I'm using, is self-directed, that I'm picking my investments, is that they're at like a 43% return year to date. A bank will never give you that amount of money. Ever. Ever. That's why it's so important for us to invest. It's so important to invest. And yes, it may seem hard, but it's really not that hard. Sometimes we shy away from things that we think are hard, but it's not that hard. You can send your money to an index fund or an ETF that mimics the S&P 500, which is like a snapshot of the 500 largest companies, U.S. companies, publicly traded companies, the S&P 500 is. And just, it's like a set it and forget it. A set it and forget it. You don't have to, I like to pick investments, but you don't necessarily have to pick your investments. You can invest in the S&P 500 and call it a day. An index fund is going to follow a particular index, like the S&P 500 I just mentioned, or it'll you might have an index fund that follows the Russell 2000. You may have ETF, which stands for Exchange Traded Fund, that mimics the S&P 500. You might have an index fund or ETF that mimics the Russell 2000. You might have a growth ETF. You might have a value ETF. You might have an ETF that provides dividends, right? Dividend investing in ETF. There's so many ways that you can invest. For those of you that are a little more traditional, right? Or not necessarily traditional, maybe like a little more conservative. There's also ways that you can invest your money and get a good rate of return without taking on a lot of risk, right? So for you all, you might want to focus on investing in bonds. Bonds are different from stocks because bonds are basically an IOU to the company that you're lending money. Stocks, when you purchase stocks, you are purchasing ownership in a company. Bonds, on the other hand, when you buy bonds, you are lending money to a company in exchange for a specific amount of interest for a certain amount of time. When that time is over, they're going to give you back all the money that you lent them. So all those years that you may lend them that money, it might be a few months, it might be a couple years, however long. At the end of that time frame, they're going to give you your money back. But during all that time, they're paying you interest. Might be 3 to 5. Bonds usually pay like 3 to 5% interest, right? Bonds are also a way to help fight against inflation, because bonds, you're lending money and you're getting a stated amount of money in return, interest in return. So bonds are also known as income investments, because you're getting money for help allowing that particular company to borrow your money. You're loaning money to a company in exchange for a certain amount of interest. Usually paid quarterly. Sometimes it's paid annually, and sometimes it's paid quarterly. But those are like a conservative way that you can invest. Instead of having your money sit in a bank, you can invest in bonds. If you are not necessarily, you don't feel confident in investing in stocks, you can invest in bonds, and your investment will be a little safer, not as volatile as stocks. But one thing about investing you have to remember is that, yes, stocks are a little risky, but if you learn to diversify, make sure your investments are diversified, it'll help reduce the amount of risk associated with you investing. So I always say, follow these 3 Ds. You want to make sure that you are, one, diversified. You want to look for companies that are going to offer you dividends. And you want to make sure you dollar cost average. Dollar cost averaging is by sending continuous amounts of the same amount. So you might send $50 or $100 every week, every month. You send that same dollar amount in. You keep investing that same dollar amount, and each time you invest, that certain amount of money is going to buy a certain amount of stocks. So for instance, dollar cost averaging. Hi, I'm Rasheen. I want to send $100 in every time I get paid. I'm going to invest $100. Well, if the price of the stock when I buy it in January, right? If that price of that stock is $20 a share, then I'm going to get five shares. However, if I buy it when I buy it in, send my $100 in February, and the price of the stock has gone down to $10, right? And I send my $100, and now I'm getting 10 shares of stock. So dollar cost averaging is basically an average or the average of all of the stocks, the price of the stocks that you've bought. So sometimes when the price of the stock goes higher, your money is going to buy less shares, but the shares are worth more. When the price of the stock goes lower, your money is going to buy more shares of stock because the price of the stock is lower. So dollar cost averaging is also one of your best friends. So make sure you're diversified. Make sure you seek out companies that provide dividends for you, and make sure that you are dollar cost averaging, because it's just a continuous investment, right? And when you invest, like have it set up automatically where it just goes over there every time you get paid or whatever frequency you choose, you take yourself out of the equation, right? Automation is like, for me, it was my best friend. Automation, everything is automated. Like, I know me, and I protect me from me by automating my investments, my bill pay, everything. Everything is just automatically sent over, automatically paid, automatically invested. So it's a great way to take yourself out of the equation, because if you think about it, ladies, listen, something always comes up, oh, I was gonna invest X amount of dollars, but this came up, I can't do that, or I can't do. Listen, if you set it up automatically, you won't have to worry about it, because it's gone before you can even get to it. So that's a great, great, great thing about automation, is taking yourself out of the equation, taking life happens out of the equation, because you've set it up where before you can get to it, before life happens, guess what? You're investing in yourself before you let anything else come before you investing in yourself. So that's why it's important to set everything up automatic. I learned that concept from, I read a book a long time ago called The Automatic Millionaire, and by David Bach, one of my favorite books ever. I read that book, I was like 19 years old, and once he start talking about just automating everything, it just makes life so easy. If you have it come directly out of your account, your investments, your retirement investing, it simplifies everything. Like I said, protect you from you. Make sure you automate everything, and you won't have to worry about life getting in the way. Don't let life get in the way. So, like I said, I am going to come on every Wednesday in the month of April, because April is Financial Literacy Month, and I just want to, come on for an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and share some of my knowledge with you all. Get you ladies investing. Maybe take away some of the fears associated with investing, or we can bounce ideas off of each other. Whatever it is you ladies want to do, listen, I'm all up for it. You can ask me a question in the comments. I'll answer your questions. This has been a really good experience. I think that we are slowly but surely changing the narrative of women in investing. We have more women starting businesses and becoming entrepreneurs. We have more women really just taking control of their financial life. We have more women investing. We have more women in roles of, as CEOs and vice presidents of companies, and starting their own companies. And we have more women, reaching back to or reaching down to the next generation, and pulling them along, the next woman along. So that's also really important. Listen, I am going to head out, but as always, I want you ladies to stay worthy. Realize who you are. Realize how worthy you are. And don't worry about anything. You put your faith in God. He is the Alpha and Omega, the Alpha and Omega. Until next time, stay worthy.